Hi everyone, welcome to Sean Burgess Fitness and thank you for tuning in to our latest Flexibility Matters video on how to passively stretch the hamstrings. So again, as I've said before in some of the other videos, there is many different techniques, many different stretches to try and stretch this particular muscle group out. And a bit like the quadriceps, the hamstrings are actually made up of 3 primary muscles, so which most people don't realise. A lot of the time people think the hamstrings is all one muscle belly of tissue. It's not the case. So different angles will work different parts of your hamstrings and stretch different parts as well. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be actually just going for what I would say is quite a popular stretch. We're going to be using a resistance band, but you could use a towel if you're at home to try and isolate different parts of the hamstrings, okay? So I'm going to get straight into the technique of this. All you're going to do, let's go on my left side so I'm closer to the camera, is just put the band around the balls of your feet, okay? Before we go into position, you need to make sure that your knee is fully extended, okay? So if it's not, and you've got a little bit of flexion there, you're not going to fully straighten out the hamstrings. So if your hamstrings are really, really tight, you're going to need to hold the band quite close to you. So you've got lots of slack, which will allow you to obviously extend your knee. So your position might be here, quite far away from your hip. But as you get more flexible, we might be able to put the hands a bit higher. We might be able to then hopefully bring the leg closer to the hip, and as we get closer to the hip you get closer to a 90-degree angle, and that's really important because we should be able to get 90 degrees of stretch, okay, through the back of that knee to then obviously stretch out the hamstrings quite a bit, okay? So that's like your first little tip, and just in terms of obviously the position of the band. And then once you've got obviously your starting position sorted, you can actually decide which part of your hamstrings you want to stretch. So if I'm keeping my foot in a very neutral middle position here, I'm stretching what I call my membranosus, which is my middle hamstring, okay? However, most people don't realise it's actually the outside of the hamstrings, this part here called the bicep femoris, which is actually for most people the tightest, okay? And especially the short head, which is down here. And that is one of the reasons why people's feet often sort of roll outwards when they're walking, affects the way you jump. It can have a big effect on your gait. So what you're going to do is just bring that bicep femoris into place, just turn your foot in slightly and bring the leg across your body towards the opposite shoulder, and then find that end point where you can hold the tension and just try and stretch through it, okay? So remember, any of these static stretches shouldn't be like a high pain, you know, in terms of when you're holding the position, it should be a comfortable stretch which feels progressive. So that's how you would just start to get that bicep femoris, that outside hamstring. If your inside hamstring, your tendinosis is a bit tight, it's not that common, but it can happen. You do pretty much the opposite thing. So you just take the leg away from the midline of the body, so towards that outside shoulder, and then we bring it up in that position there. So I'm not saying it's uncommon, and a lot of the time if you've got tight adductors, so tight groins, inside thighs, this one will also get a little bit tight as well, so you might want to obviously throw this in. Yeah, there's a lot of yoga positions which work on this. And then once you've done that, you might even want to do a bit of a medley. You might do like sort of 30 seconds on each one, because remember, I always recommend doing 3 sets of 30 seconds to make sure you obviously develop the muscle length properly. You can move on and then do the same techniques obviously on the other leg, okay? If you're not sure, like where your hamstrings are tight, actually do that as a little bit of trial and error. So actually go through each movement, see where you feel it the most, and you're probably going to be able to answer the question yourself without having to go to a therapist and get them to assess you. Okay. Cool. So I hope that all made sense, guys. Thank you for watching as always, and I look forward to seeing you soon.